Cup of the Word. Today we're looking at Psalm 119, and we're going to look at the next four letters of the alphabet. So we'll start with verses 41 through 48. This letter of the alphabet, of the Hebrew alphabet, in this alphabetic psalm, looks at the law, and it says, as we look at God's law, it gives us the ability to not fall to peer pressure. Because once we know what God says is right, that's what God's commandments teach us, is that this is what's right. And it doesn't matter what society says, and it doesn't matter what others think of me, and it doesn't matter whether my enemies are hurling abuse at me. I know who I am because I know what God said that I am. And so that gives me the ability to stand firm and have a sense of who I am, regardless of the waves of society and culture changing as they often do. So who I am is not dependent upon the people that I'm around. It's dependent upon God's truth. And then from verse 49 through 56, you look there and it deals with the law and says, the law allows me to have comfort. And it allows me to do something that many people really have a hard time doing, which is, how do I find comfort when there's no one else to comfort me? Because God's law allows us to look at it, meditate on it, and find comfort all on our own, even if everybody else has left us. So you're never truly alone because you have God's Word constantly in the back of your mind saying, no, this is what's true. This is how I actually feel about you. This is what really matters. And so you have that voice embedded in your heart giving you a song when all the world is around you full of evil, and you can be indignant at the evil and you can be frustrated with it, but you don't have to be defined by that. You've got a comfort from God that is with you and sustaining you at all times. And then from verse 57 through about the next 8 verses, down to verse 64, I think, you're going to deal with the fact that the law is best applied by those who are swift to obey it. When you take God's law and you say, well, I'll obey it tomorrow, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss all the greatness in God's commandment, because tomorrow will always be tomorrow. Procrastinate now never ever works. And so instead, if we'll be swift to obey and we won't drag our feet in, instead we have hearts to say, I'll jump to it now. God, if you say this is right, I want to do it. I want to see what happens when I do what you say right now. And we've got that attitude of immediate obedience. Then we find all this glorious stuff that begins to happen in our life because God's changing us quickly, because we're not slowly coming to Him in kind of ungrateful obedience, but instead it's this cheerful, immediate, yes, God, here am I, send me. And then the last part that we'll look at from verse 65 through 72 is we'll look at the fact that the law is it's a hard truth about God's law, but it is best learned, and we get the most out of it, and it becomes the most embedded in our hearts when we're going through trials. The fact of the matter is there are some Psalms. I mean, as we go through the Psalms here in the Daily Cup series, you'll find that there are some Psalms that resonate more with you because you go, oh, I've been through that. Or sometimes I'm in the middle of that. So there is something about God's law that it is meant to work on us where we're at in life. And that often means that as we go through trials and afflictions, that's the time when we grow the most. And that's where the law, God's teachings, really embed into our heart and our lives the most. But God says there's a reward in that His law is, first of all, practical, and that it gets us through these times. And second of all, the reward in it is that you are fundamentally changed for the better through trials if you cling to God and the truth that He's given us in His Word. That's your Daily Cup, and we'll see you tomorrow.